Hey guys. Now, it wouldn't be that revolutionary to tell you that I thought that Into the Spiderverse was one of the best movies of this past, 5 to 10 years, but Medicom Toys seems to agree with me because they've come out with a line of figures for each of the characters. And today I'm going to be showing you the Peter B. Parker from Medicom Toys. It's a pretty simplistic box. You do get a nice little pose here from Peter on the front. Kind of his famous eating a pizza while slouching in his lounge pants pose as well. And the back reveals a little bit more of the accessories and things that you're able to do with him. So, let's check him out, shall we? So, looks like the back has some stands as well as some documentation here. So this is from the, I don't know what you call it, MAFEX, M-A-F-E-X line of figures, which is very much like, typical like Figmas. It's indicating what can and can't be done with these, and also how it looks like different legs can actually be swapped out for different purposes, whether he's in his little lounge pant mode or more of his Spidey mode. For Peter himself, he seems to have a really nice kind of general look to his sculpt, his face sculpt. He's got a lot of different hands and his different legs, it looks like here. Let's open this up. Now, one thing I will say is that this figure feels like it's maybe a little smaller than a typical Figma. Because this size here, like my hand is not a huge hand, but he is also considerably smaller than maybe some of the other Figmas I own. So Medicom just might have a different scaling with their action figures, their posables. His coat here is kind of funny. What's interesting as well is his coat inside here. There feels like there's a little thin wire. So actually, what's neat about that is, if you notice, you can shape his cloak to be any kind of arrangement you want. Like, say for example, he's flying through the air and you want the cloak to kind of look like it's billowing out a little bit. You can totally get away with that thanks to this wire that's been sewn into his coat. So that's kind of cool. Also, what's nice is like, it looks like this coat can clearly just be straight up taken off if you want, so that he can again just be his regular Spider-Man mode. He's got a decent paint job actually on his face. So much so that my camera is actively recognizing it as a human face. Which is kind of funny. You can't see it, but I'm seeing the little grid work around his face, which is cute. Nice hair job, very accurate to the movie. So that's very cool. He even has the little faint 5 o'clock shadow as well. So nice attention to detail here. Now while I'm super close up, let's look at some other elements here. His little hands with the web work. Now again, this is soft loungewear, which is funny, and I can feel the joints underneath. This little super tied shoe, ankle joint, and his boots. Now the attachable feet they have are very customizable. If you notice here, there is a joint at the ball of the foot, so you can get some good bending there. And his ankle joint, because I guess they want to make sure you could do really everything you need, is just a straight ball. So you'll definitely be able to get some good movement out of that leg. His little feet are funny. So they sculpted even his feet. So if you want to have him running barefoot everywhere, you can do that. The famous drippy pizza that he can hold in his hand. It actually looks like as if it's full. He can hold this little cup of coffee as well. I like all the little details on this, even the painting on his webbing. See, look, here's the crazy bit. If you notice the way the light hits this webbing, it's even slightly textured, it looks like, which is nuts. So that's a nice little attention to detail for that. Here's his mask. Now this would be the flat mask that he would just hold in his hand if you wanted to portray him like that, because it's all flat and kind of deflated. So that's an interesting touch. We have the standard Spidey head, which again, you can kind of see with the reflection or the bouncing back of the light that it's slightly almost like bumpy as a texture, which is interesting. Got a nice sheen on the lenses. And of course, for humorous purposes, you have the displeased or unimpressed expression as well. You can also choose one where he's got the mask kind of half up on his face, like as if he's about to get ready to do some superheroing, and a kind of a more stern expression than he has here. So he's a bit more laid back without the mask, and a bit more serious business with the mask. But the quality for these is very nice. And the way that it comes packaged in the box, he already has his lounge pants on, but you can clearly just like take them off of him to see his existing outfit underneath. Now, let's see here. If I take this completely off, he's probably going to have his regular... Yeah, so normally when you take him off, as you can see here, since he's got his silly shoes on, he has his regular uncostumed legs underneath. So you would need to swap to these suckers, these legs, when you want him to do more of these superhero poses. So a few other things to note, although this looks very unfortunately posed. That little paperwork that comes with it suggests that these hands are removed prior to trying to remove the jacket. So let's do that real quick. That way we can also kind of get a closer look at the coat itself. Now, I think they did a really good job just with the construction of this coat. Like, obviously it is dull proportions, so maybe not the best detail in the world, but they still have pockets here, and kind of that wire that I mentioned goes all the way through the edge up to this point here. There's not any in this little cut here, but you probably wouldn't really need it. There is also wiring in the collar. So you could shape the collar pretty much to however you want it. So that's pretty cool. There's no wire feels within the sleeve, but that's because, you know, he'd probably be just wearing that. So that would be a little unnecessary. But overall, I mean, it's a nice little fabric coat. And it's nice that it's actually fabric and not just something that would be a hard shell like I've seen in so many of my other kinds of figures. Presumably, there we go. We could just pop off the feet so we can get him out of these slouch pants. And let's check out his joints. Now, these are really like super ball and socket joints. Like, look at this. They seem to value the movement in this case, which I don't disagree, over even some of the visual. Because like some people may be a little turned off that, like, you know, you can just see a really obvious, almost like a robotic looking ball joint here instead of it being all clean and, you know, looking like it's part of the same body. But the nice thing about doing this for a Spider-Man figure is that then you'll definitely get a wide range of motion with the shoulder joint. Because as you've seen from maybe my other videos, often with the shoulders, they're so restricted that you can't even get... Oh, shit. Okay, that was a mistake. But I was just to say, normally you can't even get it going past their shoulder. There, I got a little excited. But one nice thing about this figure is, unlike my previous unboxings where something just totally snapped and was unfixable, this easily just popped right back in the joint. So that's good to know. Yay! He's got a very generous twist. He's got his little pot belly here, as you can see, it sticks out. He's got a shoulder. Not shoulder, he's got a torso twist here. He also has an additional hip twist here. Wow, he's got quite the range here, which is good. And also looks like it's double jointed knees as well. So you'll get some good movement out of him for sure. Now, as you can see here, so like for example, I'm able to really curve his spine. So if you wanted to get some super dynamic poses with this figure, you're actually going to get it and then some. Even curling inwards, like if you're going to have him like land, you could get some good poses as well. One weird thing here is check out this This neck, they really want you to be able to move it however you want, but the downside is you see this huge like lump, almost like some kind of goiter or something, sticking out on the base here, which is a little, like, your mileage may vary if this is a deal breaker to you or not, but see how it's very visibly obvious. But his head also moves independent of that, so this is one of those figures where you could get quite a lot of movement out of this head for all kinds of, you know, looking here, looking there, everywhere kind of poses. It's not so awesome having a Marvel trademark or copyright right on his backside, but I guess most of the time you may not see it, like if it's hidden here or if he's wearing the coat. Still not awesome to have it prominently featured like that, but could be worse, I suppose. And as I mentioned, there is a host of different hands to choose from. So let's try a couple little poses and see what we got here. Give him a little sliced pizza here. Now, one thing to consider is, as with like Figmas or other similar kind of characters, often for these stands, there is literally like usually a hole in the back of the character that one of these sticks will just like directly go into to kind of keep him in place. These guys, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on what you like, do not have any kind of hole. So the stand that it comes with has this little claw kind of grabber. Now, unfortunately, as I was just finding out when I was trying to stand up Peter here, this doesn't have any kind of locking mechanism or anything. So if you try to have him, for example, like say I want him going flying through the air, like from some weird angle like this, and shooting out this webbing. Unfortunately, if you notice, not only is this hole kind of like loose, because it doesn't fully, you know, it's not a form-fitting claw arm, but it already is trying to open up. There's not a way to lock it in place and have him stay there. So it doesn't do a great job if you see right here holding somebody up. You may end up wanting to find other solutions if you want to do some really crazy, like, you know, flying through the air positioning for him. If you want him to stand generally or just look like he's walking, you know, in place, that's probably going to be more doable with this. Oops, he dropped his pizza. And also one of the things I forgot to mention is that he comes with these little webbings here. But they're not the worst, but they're also kind of a little weird. So the ones that are shorter, as you'll notice here, oops, have a little loop, which looks like you're supposed to put it, you know, into the wrist and then put it in the hand, like I've done here, so that it essentially holds it in place. But then you obviously see a big white ring, so, you know, that's always going to be a side effect of being able to do something like this. There are other ones that have a stick, which I am assuming, maybe, is something where, like, if it's a hand or a fist. This guy here, that does look like it's a thumbs up, does have a hole in it. It looks like you could slip it in. It's a little tight. I believe that's what you would do in this particular case. So yeah, the stand is definitely, I would say, a negative, because despite how it might not be awesome to usually see holes in characters' backs, I think that would be preferable to always, instead of always seeing this clear plastic ring when you're trying to get him to stand up straight. And as you could see, it's kind of not great in terms of getting him to stay put, because he's just, even like this, he's just loosely falling all over the place. But the figure itself is a good quality figure. One other thing I noticed too, even about the posability, is that even at this level with the arms, not only do you get quite a lot of options with the shoulder joint here, but even on top of that, this part of the upper arm twists as well. So like if you wanted to even get him, and one of the hardest things to do is to get them looking like they're crossing their arms or whatever. But I might have the wrong hand shapes here. But this is one of those figures where maybe you could actually get close to properly doing that, you know, provided you've got the right hand shapes. I can't take him seriously, but, you know, like something like that, I guess, if you wanted to. I think most of the time, maybe I'm a little biased, but as a Peter B. Parker fan, I would actually probably rather have him look like his hobo self rather than just straight up in his superhero garb. So that's probably what I will present him as for most of the time. But it's nice that they provide you all the various accessories so that you could have him in either form if you wish. So yeah, ultimately I think the big question that you'll have to ask yourself is like, how badly do you want this figure? As I mentioned, he is really nicely posable. There is the downside with the existing base that comes with him, but maybe if you are if you're an active collector of these kind of posable figures, maybe you'll have a better solution for that. The cloth fabric is nice, but all of this kind of comes at sort of a premium. And one of the other things that I kind of wish was that it was a little bit bigger. Right now, I think his size is somewhere between it's like maybe 6 inches or so high, which is not super big for a figure. It's kind of nice maybe if you have them on your desktop or something like that. But I mean, I always like them. The bigger the better, honestly. If they could have been at least like a 7 or 8 incher figure or something like that, sure, that would have helped. Also, so that details are kind of a little easier to see. And the price point is something as well. When I pre-ordered it, it was somewhere around, I mean, it was in yen, but it was somewhere around $80 or so. So for you, that may be a bit of a deal breaker if it's a little too expensive for a smallish figure, even though it does come with a lot of, accessories and that sort of thing. So it all comes down to your personal choice. I do think, at least in terms of accessories compared to my previous Sam and Max video, it does a far better job at being able to swap out accessories without having to go through hoops just to get them to fit. So that is a major plus for Medicom. So good job on that. So there you have it. Again, this is the Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse Peter B. Parker figure from Medicom Toys. We'll see you next time, and thanks for watching.